Hey everyone, Sparks back with another Goddess Victory Nikke video, and it's finally time to go over the community voted tier list. I've been excited for this for a long time. You can see here, we're looking at the first post right now. This is 5 months in the making. This took even longer than I expected, but new units kept getting released, and so it extended it more and more and more. But this was possibly the biggest project that I've ever taken on here for this channel, and it involved thousands of you guys voting for these things over, as you can see, a 5-month period. And this is how you guys as a community voted for what the best units are. Okay, so let me explain kind of how this worked. Per the restrictions of YouTube's polls that you can do, we did 4 units at a time, okay? And basically, I did all the Burst 1 defenders, and you guys voted which was the best, which you can see we're starting off here. And then I did all of the Burst 1 supports, all of the Burst 1 attackers, and then the same thing for Burst 2. So all the Burst 2 supports, all the Burst 2 defenders, all the Burst 2 attackers, and then same for Burst 3. Again, Burst 1, attacker, defender, support, all that for Burst 3 as well. So once we got the best of each of those, we went to the second round. So whichever ones won out of their groups of 4, then we went to a second bracket. So whoever was the best Burst 3 attackers based on that, then we had all the winners of that. For some of them, there was a really small amount of units. For instance, Burst 3 supports was almost nothing. So they skipped around and then just advanced clear to the next one. So once we narrowed it down to being all of the, burst and unit type for the best of those, then we went to the burst in general. So of all the winners of those specific types, we went to just Burst 1 overall, best Burst 2 overall, best Burst 3 overall, and then eventually finally went to best unit overall. So it might feel it's a little confusing or complicated, but you'll see how this goes. So basically, I'm gonna go over each poll here briefly, kind of give my thoughts on how you guys voted, see if you guys are whack or if you actually know what's up. No, this is just curious. I'm curious to see how you guys valued the unit. So the only rule here that I said is that your votes should be based on power level and usefulness, okay? Otherwise, whatever you guys judge this as is what you guys judge it as. So again, this is purely how you guys value units as a community. And whether you guys were focused on raids or campaign or arena, whatever it is, this should reflect what you guys were thinking. So strap in, guys. This is going to be a long one, but this one is pretty cool. I'm excited to see what you guys said. So starting off on our first bracket here, we have Burst 1 defenders. Tia won this with Jackal coming in second, and then Moran and Ludmilla in very distant third and fourth. This makes sense. Jackal is top tier for PvP, but not really for much of anything else. Tia is a clear winner here. And then we're going to keep going past a bunch of community votes too that were in between the voting rounds, obviously. Then we got to Burst 1 attacker. Not a whole lot of them here, so we didn't even have a full 4 of them. So here we have Volume easily winning this. Based opinion, guys. And then Rosanna in a extremely distant second, and Milk apparently getting some pity votes there in third. Who is next? Okay, so now we have Best Burst 1 support, and we're going to have multiple tiers or rounds of these even in this first round bracket here because there's so many Burst 1 supports. So we have Bunny Alice, Summer Mary, Leader, and Coco. Leader wins this by a landslide. I mean, she's the clear, obvious winner. We have 10% of people coping with Bunny Alice, a few devoted Summer Mary followers, and Coco here, she's the new meta. If you know, you know. All right, so good. So far, I agree with you guys. Okay, another round of Burst 1 supports here. We have Christmas Mika, Exia, Emma, and Double D Wife. So, I mean, a Double D, again, easy winner here. This is by a massive margin. I think it's even more of a margin than Leader won by. Yeah, 89% of the vote. And then, no one else is even relevant. Interesting, we have 5% for Emma, only 3% for Exia, and 3% for Christmas Mika. Now, Exia is actually very relevant in high-level solo raids, but I'm pretty sure that 99% of people don't have her treasure. And clearly, you guys didn't value her enough to get her treasure, because she does become very, very good. Now, I still think D double wife here is the easy winner, even far better than Exia. But I feel like if people were really factoring in her treasure and trying to do like high scores on Solar Rage, she would have gotten more of the vote here than she did, because 3% is basically nothing. Okay, going on to the next vote. Still doing Burst 1 supports. Dorothy wins this by an even bigger margin at 91% of the vote. And then Noise coming in second at 6%. And then Miranda and Freema both at 2% of the vote. Those votes from Miranda hurt me a little bit. She's an OG favorite as the Snow White supporter. And Freema, the only person I've actually personally gone for the treasure for, just because I like her as a character. But yeah, this is another clear winner here. If people were really focused on PvP, which apparently nobody is, I don't blame you guys, Noise probably would have gotten a little bit more of the vote here. But Dorothy, I mean, she's definitely the best of these, right? Dorothy makes a lot of sense, although she is falling off. Okay, still on Burst 1 supports, we have Rapunzel, Soda, Pepper, and Sakura. Rapunzel massively winning here. Now, Rapunzel may not be living up to some of the other winners we saw, but again, I think a pretty clear winner here. Pepper does get a reasonable 10% of the vote, and then Soda at 5% and Sakura at 4%. This definitely makes a lot of sense. Rapunzel is really helpful for lower level accounts in particular, can really help you stay alive and push through some more difficult content, and is still niche use in solo raid on rare occasions and a top tier arena unit as well. So, okay, we are still on Burst 1 support. There's so many Burst 1 supports. This one is a little bit more mixed up. However, Tuve is still winning this by a pretty big percentage at 66% of the vote, with Zwei in second at 18%, and then Mary at 14%, and Yan at 2%. Yeah, basically nobody uses any of these units other than Tuve. The shotgun team is more relevant than I expected it to be, and I think although Zwei is a pretty good unit, she just doesn't really have a place. So this also makes a lot of sense. Okay, so now we're finally moving on to the next level of burst. Those were all our burst 1s, and we'll come back to them, again combining all the winners, but now we're moving on to the burst 2 attackers. So we have Arya, Yunhua, Guilty, and Summerhelm. Summerhelm wins this easily with 68%. Makes sense. Guilty second at 29%. I think that's reasonable. And then Yunhua is 2%, and Arya at 1%, which I think is the lowest percentage we've seen for any unit so far. Arya had a brief moment of usefulness really early on in the game, with like a shield team that you could do with Folkwang against Modernia in raids, as well as against Nihilister. So honestly, I'm kind of surprised Arya isn't higher than Yunhua. I mean, we're really like talking about things that are completely moot, right? Like 1 or 2% doesn't really make any difference. But anyway, apparently you guys are a fan of the forehead. But either way, Summerhelm getting an easy win here. She's got the cooldown reduction, the whole iron weakness thing. She's a solid unit. Makes sense. Okay. Past all these Ava posts. Oh man, this. Oh yeah, I changed to the membership things. Okay. Anyway, now our second group of Burst 2 attackers. This one is like the really pure attackers. Like the last group of attackers, even though they were technically attackers, kind of had a little bit more utility. These are like kind of the pure DPS attackers. Rupee wins this at 55% of the vote. Nihilister in second at 26% of the vote, Viper at 18%, and Signal at 1%. So this one is kind of interesting. This is the first one that I think merits a bit more discussion here. I think, again, we're seeing people not factor in treasures, because if we were factoring in treasures, Viper probably wins this, because Viper has proven to actually do really significant damage and be useful as a burst 2. Still pretty niche, don't get me wrong here. Like, you're not going to use her like 95% of the time, but you're just not going to use a burst 2 attacker at all 99% of the time, right? But Viper is probably actually the best with that treasure. And Nihilister, I think, is also, as I've proven way back on release with like damage tests, and when I did the full unit review, Nihilister is actually the best straight up DPS burst 2. She outperformed Rupee. Rupee does have a little bit more support and utility because she can kind of help the iron teams, but it's just not really that relevant. We've come a long way is what I'm trying to say. And then poor Signal, of course, 1%. That makes sense. But, I think there was like a lot of people just saying that like Nihilister should have been more busted and she wasn't. And so people kind of discounted her. Whereas a lot of people used Rupee at the launch of the game, probably remember her fondly. But I have to say, I think Viper really deserved to win this vote. The thing is, again, I think a lot of people didn't get the treasure, including myself. Okay, moving on, more Ava post. We are going to burst 2 defenders. Oh my gosh. All right, we have a slaughter right here. So we have Bay, Diesel, Senti, and Crown. Crown wins this easily. Okay, I think this is the second biggest margin of win that we've seen here at 87% of the vote. No one even comes close to this. Senti, in a very, very, very distant second at 6%, still an all-star in Arena. And then we have Bay and Diesel just, trying to get some attention there. Bay has my attention, if you know what I mean. Okay, so now another round of Burst 2 defenders. This is literally our biggest margin of victory we've had yet, probably in the entire voting, but we'll see this. See if anybody beats 93%. Blanc wins with 93%. And then it's funny, we have Folkwang and Nero tied for 3% and Makima at 2%. I thought they were all at 3% for a second there. No one's really relevant here. Like, Blanc is still an extremely relevant unit. In a way, almost even better now that we have Rouge that can combine with her. Not that Noir was bad, but like she's just even better. Makima, some people still cope with her in Arena, but really not relevant. Nero, strong defender when combined with the right healers, but again, just like not really relevant. Folkwang, she looks good, but not doing the right things. Okay, moving on to the next round. I mean, Blanc was the only choice there, right? Okay, we are now on Burst 2 supports, and something not quite as big of a landslide victory here, but Biscuit wins this at 67%, with Winter Ann at 13%, Aid at 12%, and Admi at 8%. This makes sense. Biscuit is decent in Arena. She also saw niche use in raids. She's a solid unit. Winter Ann, also good in Arena and used to see niche use in raids, but like just not really anymore. The competition in Burst 2 is so high. And then Aiden and Admi are honestly just like not really relevant. Okay, so far you guys are doing a good job. You guys are doing a good job overall. Okay, Burst 2 supports. We've got Clay, Dola, Eleg, and Leona, with Dola winning this at 54%. Dola was one of the best units on launch, but now we have so many good Burst 1 cooldown reduction units, Dola almost never makes it onto a team. But still a strong unit, and I think does deserve to be here. Eleg had potential, and I initially thought was going to be used a lot more than she ended up being. There was like 1 month or so when she was really used, and then we never really saw her ever again. Leona has not really done well on the shotgun team, honestly. Like, she was used on the shotgun team for a while, but at this point isn't even kind of doing what you'd think she would be doing. And then poor Clay kind of joining her friend Bay in the unused but amazing eye candy category. So yeah, anyway, I kind of feel like Leona deserves to be higher than Eleg, if we're being real here, because I think Leona still got some more use than Eleg actually did, and realistically probably both of them are used more nowadays than Dola. But again, I think we're seeing people remembering Dola fondly, and like she was extremely good. And, just not thinking that, like, now she's not that relevant, honestly, in today's meta. Okay. I beat Elden Ring, yada, yada. Okay. So, more Best Burst 2 supports. Naga winning this 75%. Easy victory here. Marshana with 18%. Also makes sense. Not seen so much nowadays, but she can potentially go on, either the shotgun team or the quick reload team, but we don't really do the quick reload team like we used to. And then we have Masked in a very, very distant third, and Quincy in fourth. Other version of Quincy coming later. But yeah, Naga wins this. I mean, honestly, Naga, one of the best units in the game. easy victory here. I mean, Marshana is pretty good, so I kind of see where some people are coming from, but really, Naga was the only possible winner there. All right, moving on to Burst 3. So we have our Burst 3 defenders. Not very many of them at all here. Later on, we're going to have some units that were released later where they got like a chance to upset. We'll get to those votes a little bit later in the video, but these are the only Burst 3s that were out at the time. 2B, Kilo, and Crow. 2B, another easy victory here. 86% of the vote. I mean, 2B was never like the best unit, but still a solid unit, and like the competition is not very high here. Kilo, a good free-to-play unit, and, helps some brand new players, can do some stuff in Arena, but really, 2B is definitely much better, and Crow is unfortunately one of the weakest units in the game here. And we know that people are just going to like not even pay attention to the fact that they're supposed to be voting by power level and usefulness, and they'll probably vote for 2B anyway. So she was probably a guaranteed victor no matter what. Okay, Burst 3 attackers. This is another category, kind of like the Burst 1 supports, where we're going to have a ton of these rounds because there's just so many Burst 3 attackers. So we got Laplace, Power, Snow White, and Yulha. I'm going to try and pick up the pace here a little bit. Snow White wins with a strong victory of 67%. Laplace in second at 29%. And then Power at 2% and Yulha at 1%. This is kind of interesting. So Snow White, I definitely think, deserved to win this. Laplace, strong with her treasure. I want to say more people probably went for Laplace's treasure than any other treasures, at least initially. And Laplace does have a lot of fans, even though I'm not personally a big fan. Power, not really relevant. Yulha, I don't think Yulha deserved to be at 1% here. Yulha, up until very recently, actually saw a lot of play in raids and was a very good partner to Snow White. This 1% for Yulha is just insulting. Yulha definitely deserved to be higher here. I think this should have been a very close vote, with Snow White winning and then Laplace and Yulha both having like close seconds, and then probably Power's the only one that really deserved to be down here. But ultimately, I think, the right unit did win here. But I just, this really, I think, should have been much closer than it was. Okay, so now we have more Best Burst 3 attackers, with Ein winning by a very large margin, 73%, Drake in second at 13%, Original D at 8%, and Brid at 6%. This makes sense. Ein is an extremely good electric attacker, just good attacker in general. Drake, kind of not that relevant, decent, and then D and Brid, not that relevant here. Got some spicy Stellar Blade posts. Oh, Rouge just got released. Red Hood skin. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Best Burst 3 attackers. Again, what is this, part 4? We have A2 winning at 61%. Amelia in second at 24%. Haran at 12%. And Epinel. This makes sense. A2, I think, has just really recently, in the last 2 months, kind of stopped being relevant at all. But honestly, up until like the last couple months, she was still kind of the best at what she did. This was like before we got insane things like Cinderella. She still does huge AoE damage. She's still a very strong unit. Amelia, capable of putting out really big damage. Also kind of a arena hero, but ultimately not super relevant. Haran and Epinel not doing a lot. Haran is definitely stronger than Epinel, but Epinel might actually have been more relevant because of the tower. But anyway, this makes sense. My girl A2 took the W. Okay, moving on. Now we have Alice winning by a massive landslide of 87%. Makes sense. Alice, again, pretty much possibly best unit of the game. We'll find out soon. Isabel in an extremely distant second at 7%, with D and Guillotine tied at 3% there. Makes sense. And that's all we need to say about that. Okay. More Burst 3 attackers. Asuka, the original Tsundere, taking the victory with 69%. Nice. Second place goes to Helm, Small White in third, and Julia. I don't even know how Julia got 2%. I guess there's some big Julia fans out there. Julia, was never relevant for any reason. I always kind of liked her design, but is honestly one of the worst units in the game, if we're being real here. Anyway, this makes sense. Asuka is an extremely strong unit. She deserves the win here. Helm makes sense that she would be in second, but just not even close to the same level. Small White, also kind of like similar value to Helm, but again, not going to be there. Okay. More Burst 3 attackers. We have Winter Ludmilla taking this round at 58% and Noir at 37%, and then Summer Anise at 3% and Maiden at 2%. This is interesting. I'm surprised Noir didn't get more votes. Like, Winter Ludmilla is a very good attacker, possibly best or second best water attacker nowadays. Very, very strong. But I just thought Noir would have gotten more points. I'm kind of surprised. I think Winter Ludmilla deserves to win here. And again, Noir did fall off when Rouge came out. She's just not nearly as relevant. But still a strong result of 30% of the vote. Don't get me wrong. Anyway, I think you guys made the right decision. Summer Neon, she was one of the biggest disappointments ever. And Maiden, Maiden's existing. Okay. Next round of Burst 3 attackers. Modernia winning at 82%. I mean, pretty much wherever Modernia is going to be, she's going to win, right? Second place, 10% to Summer Sakura. Third place to Privity with 6%, and Trani at 3%. I honestly am surprised that Modernia didn't win by an even larger perspective. But I do know there are a lot of Summer Sakura fans and a lot of Privity fans out there. But I mean, Modernia this was the only realistic win, right? Summer Sakura is a very strong unit, and the longer she was out, the more and more I actually appreciated her. So I feel like maybe she deserved even more votes than she got, but ultimately just can't even compare to Modernia. And it does make sense that she beat Privity. Privity, a solid unit, but has gotten less and less relevant nowadays. Again, we don't really do the quick reload team like we used to. Privity isn't really the arena all-star that she used to be. So Sakura is critical for a lot of people's teams against Kraken on the interception. And then Trani just kind of never really did anything. So anyway, you guys are still doing well, still making the right votes here. Okay, more Burst 3 attackers. Really close. This is probably the closest one that we have gotten so far. So this is interesting. Maid Privity winning at 51%. Maxwell getting second at 41%. Sugar at a very distant third in 5%. And Celine at 2%. So Celine and Sugar are honestly just like not relevant here at all. Maxwell and Privity, however, I want to say you guys are undervaluing Maxwell. Maid Privity is very, very good. Probably the third best electric type attacker. I would say Cinderella is the best, although I don't think she was released at the point of this survey. And then Ayn is second best, and then Maid Privity. I think, Scarlet's honestly not even in the conversation anymore. Maid Privity is good, and the shotgun team, like I said before, was way more relevant than I expected it to stay. So this kind of makes sense, but Maxwell, still pretty much used in every solo raid, is extremely good support for, so many units, namely Red Hood, of course, was always a good support for, Alice and Snow White back in the day as well. And can still do big damage and is just consistently used as a quick charger on solo raid teams. Like, Maxwell is almost always there in some form or another. So I think I personally would have given this vote to Maxwell, but I do see the Maid Privity. I don't know. This is close. This is close. I would lean towards giving the win to Maxwell here. Like I said, just because, always used, and Maid Privity is relevant, but I could see her being replaced. Like, she's on the shotgun team, she's the one who will get replaced, not Bunny Soda, but whatever, that's all theoretical. Okay, moving on to the next one. I beat Space Marine 2. Okay, best Burst 3 attackers. Red Hood. Yes, Red Hood takes the victory of 87%. Scarlet left in the dust at 9%, and then D and Vesti with 2%. You might notice that I put D in here a lot of times if I didn't have an even 4 just for the memes. She was like my filler spot, so maybe D can collectively get more than like 10% at some point. We'll see. Anyway, Red Hood, yes, yes, I know she's all 3 burst, and some people will say she's even better as a burst 1 than a burst 3. But, like if you're doing a raid, you can't really use her as a burst 1. And in most scenarios, you're going to go through more cycles. You need to use her as a burst 3. So anyway, that's why I put her as a burst 3. Yeah, massive victory here. This makes sense. Scarlet, one of the best units on launch, is just not relevant now. Other than Arena. She's still queen in Arena. But apparently you guys don't care about Arena. I would have expected Scarlet to get a little more votes because I know there's a lot of diehard Scarlet simps out there. But I guess compared to Red Hood, I mean, you just can't compare. And yes, you guys absolutely made the right choice here. Red Hood advances. Okay. We're getting towards the end of Burst 3 attackers, I believe. We got Ray, Phantom, Bunny Soda, and Crow. We got another meme ad there with Crow, kind of like I did with D before. So Bunny Soda takes the win here at 64%, and Ray in second, 22%, 12% for Phantom, 2% for Crow. You guys know I am partial to Ray. If I was voting with my heart, I think it goes to Ray. And honestly, I think since we've gotten our recent release of Rappy, Ray maybe deserves to be even higher here. Ray was really, really strong. Ray is still part of the best fire attacker team. However, Bunny Soda kind of just doesn't need any help. No matter what team you put her on, she's going to be good. She's good in Tetra Tower. She's good on the shotgun team for raids. She's probably the best shotgun unit in the game, basically. She can put out really massive damage, close to some of the top tier damage dealers. So ultimately, as much as it hurts me to say it, you guys made the right choice. I mean, she looks amazing too, although we're not factoring that in for these votes, right? Anyway, so Bunny Soda takes the win there. Ray gets second. Phantom, not as relevant as I think a lot of us expected it to be, even with the lack of water attackers. But okay, so moving on. I have to agree with you guys. I don't like it, but I have to agree with you guys. Okay, best burst 3 attackers. I think this is our very last round, if I'm not mistaken. We have Black Shadow, Scarlet, Quincy, and Julia. Quincy, possibly the best water attacker in the game, although I think Winter Ludmilla might still hold that title. I want to say Winter Ludmilla has the edge on her, although their damage is like extremely similar. It's unfortunate that she had to lose to Black Shadow Scarlet, but Black Shadow Scarlet wins with a huge 88%. One of the highest DPS characters in the game, if not the highest DPS character in a lot of situations. So Black Shadow Scarlet had to get the win here. Okay, moving on. Finally done with our Burst 3 attackers. We are going on to our Burst 3 supports. Query and Summer Niece. We have a new winner for our biggest margin of victory here. 97% for Summer Niece. We only have 2 Burst 3 supports. Yes, Summer Niece wins this. I don't think I need to explain this at all. Good job, guys. Not completely being dumb. Okay, so now we are moving on to the second bracket. These are the winners. Now, we are going to group them together, so like there were so many, let me start this explanation over again. There were so many burst 1s, we're going to have multiple groups in the second bracket. But everybody in this round are now winners from the first round, okay? So Leader, Rapunzel, and Rouge are all winners from previous votes. So we have Leader winning this at 82%, Rapunzel at 11% and Rouge at 7%. I think people did not appreciate Rouge enough. As much as I love Rapunzel, and don't get me wrong, you guys know I'm a big fan of Rapunzel, Rouge deserves to be higher here. I don't know what Rouge, I mean, Leader wins no matter what, right? Although Rouge actually has better CDR than Leader, she also is the best support for Cinderella. She also combines super well with Blanc. You can quick charge with her. Rouge is extremely good here. Now, I do think, again, Leader wins this just because Leader does everything. Leader has been basically the best unit in the game since launch. So this does make sense. But, man, I really would have thought Rouge should get more votes and deserve to beat Rapunzel here. But it is what it is. Okay, so now we have our second group of Burst 1 support winners. We got Double D, Dorothy, and Tuve. Double D takes the win here at 54%, Dorothy with 42%, and Tuve at 4%. This makes sense. Double D, kind of everything I said about Rouge kind of applies to Double D. She has like the best CDR in the game. They have like the same. She's also the best support for Red Hood, which is super good. You can quick charge with her. Makes a lot of sense. Dorothy, not as relevant as she used to be, but in a close second there. And then Tuve, even though she is a good Burst 1 support and deserves to be in here in the winner's bracket, not on the level of these other units. So, okay. Good choice, guys. Good choice, guys. So now, again, moving on to the winners of the Burst 2 Defenders. So these are the only two winners that we had from the first round. We got Blanc and Crown. Blanc is a good unit, but when you put her against Crown, she looks like she's terrible. Crown wins with 89%. This is the right choice. Crown is insane. She is cracked no matter what situation you put her in. Blanc, very, very good, but just, Crown blocks all the incoming attacks, basically trivializes a lot of boss mechanics, her reload, her attack buff. She's just good in every situation. In almost any team, Crown will be the best Burst 2. So it makes sense. There's that time when they took away my monetization and I got it back. Okay. Moving on to all the winners of Burst 2 Attackers. So our winners from the previous bracket were Rupee and Summer Helm. Summer Helm here wins by a lot. This makes sense. Rupee is honestly just not really relevant. Summer Helm is kind of not even really that relevant, but I think does deserve the win here. They're both iron types. Summer Helm is a CDR. She's going to help your iron type damage better than Rupee will. And yeah, makes sense. Summer Helm gets the win. Okay. Burst 2 supports Biscuit, Dola, and Naga. Naga wins at 91%. Interesting that Naga has a bigger margin of victory than she did in her previous round, even though she's going against winners here from the first round. But Naga easily wins this. Again, Biscuit, kind of niche. Dola, not really relevant anymore. And Naga, one of the best units in the game. Extremely, extremely good. And 91%. She definitely deserves to win this. And I think the longer Naga has been out, and the longer Crown was out too, the more people realized just how insane Naga was. Ooh, we got the release of Cinderella, so we'll see her soon. Okay, so best Burst 3 attackers. We're going to have several groups of these, again, because there's so many of them, but these are all winners from the first bracket. So we got Snow White, A2, and Bunny Soda. Interesting. So Snow White wins this at 52%, Bunny Soda at 32%, and A2 at 15%. We have a lot of my favorite units in this grouping here. I'm a big fan of Snow White, A2, and Bunny Soda. Snow White wins at 52% over Bunny Soda at 32%. This is tough. Now, this was done 2 months ago, so not really much of anything should have changed as far as the situation here. Snow White is better in a way, and she does still pop up on rare occasions in raids, but honestly, it's starting to get to the point where she's not relevant, and Bunny Soda is still very relevant. So Snow White is kind of better in isolation and has historically done insane stuff. But I gotta admit, I feel like this might be wrong. I feel like Bunny Soda might have deserved to go on here. A2, as good as she is, she should be in third there. That makes sense. You would think I would never say this, right? I mean, Snow White's my favorite unit in the game. But I just think things have passed her by a bit. And not at all that she's useless. She's still, you can do some really good stuff with her. But I think Bunny Soda, she's just more relevant right now. So I think we might have gotten the vote wrong here, guys. I can't believe I'm even saying this. I can't. Okay, let's move on before I get sad. Hey, you guys kept Snow White in the running though, so I guess I should be happy. Okay, more Burst 3 attackers. We got Ein, Alice, Winter Ludmilla, and Black Shadow Scarlet. Black Shadow Scarlet wins this at 71%. no surprise here. Black Shadow Scarlet, again, is extremely dominant. Alice, more of a distant second than I would have expected at 20% of the vote. Alice, it always goes with Black Shadow Scarlet too, and can still do insane damage on her own. I mean, Alice is the best Black Shadow Scarlet support, so it's hard to, remove her from the equation when you're talking about Black Shadow Scarlet. She's also, just insane on her own still. I mean, honestly, even just as a primary DPS, she's probably still like top 6, maybe something like that. I mean, she's still very, very good. But Black Shadow Scarlet does deserve the win here. Ayn and Winter Ludmilla, very, very close. We got 5% and 4%. As good as they are, which they are very good, makes sense that they are nowhere near the other ones. Anyway, ultimately, Black Shadow Scarlet gets the victory here. Moving on to our next group of Burst 3 attackers that are all winners from the first round. We got Asuka, Modernia, Maid Privity, and Red Hood. This is kind of surprising, guys. I would have expected Modernia and Red Hood to be neck and neck, but there is a clear victor here. You guys voted, and this is one of our biggest groups of voters, 1.7 thousand votes here. Red Hood wins at 76%, and Modernia only 14%. That's kind of wild. Asuka in a very distant third with 6%, and Maid Privity at 4%. Maid Privity and Asuka, again, very, very strong, especially Asuka, but they don't really compare to these other ones. Red Hood is kind of nuts. I mean, the fact that Red Hood can be all 3 burst in a pinch, and against bosses where Pierce is particularly relevant, where you can go through multiple parts, or if there's like a hidden core, Red Hood can be very insane. Modernia is a little bit more universal, though. She just literally goes on any team as your third burst 3 attacker and will still do more damage than most units, even if they're going against someone that has their elemental damage and you just randomly threw Modernia on there. I don't know. I think Red Hood does have to win this. It's close, but I think I do agree with you guys. But I'm very surprised this was not closer. Kind of shocking, actually. But Red Hood, I mean, it's Red Hood. It does make sense. It makes sense that Red Hood gets the victory there. I mean, she has so much flexibility, and when she's strong, she's extremely strong. So makes sense. Well, we got a lot of Girls Frontline 2 posts here. Okay. Community vote second bracket, Burst 1 Defender. So these are all of the Burst 1 Defender winners, which was basically just Tia. But now we have Young Rapunzel. So Young Rapunzel wasn't released before. So like I said, we get these added rounds in here for units that weren't released. Tia versus Young Rapunzel. Tia wins as easily at 75%. Young Rapunzel, decent unit, but not comparable. Tia is, as much as he's not as relevant as she used to be, Tia definitely still wins that. Then we get Burst 2 Support. Again, another unit that wasn't released with Grave. Naga versus Grave here. Naga wins with 70%. Grave not getting as much recognition as I would have expected. Grave can deal good damage on her own. Extremely good Burst 2 Pierce support. Really good with, be it like Asuka, potentially Red Hood, or even like, anybody else with Pierce, honestly. Very, very good unit. But I think the community was starting to come around at this point with just how insane Naga is. And Naga was extremely good on release and only got better and better. I mean, even like when Crown came out, she was like, got a huge power spike. She released as a top tier unit. Then Crown came out, even more dominant. And then like as it aged more and more, people realized that Naga was like better and better and better, to the point where she's like, I don't know, is she in the conversation for best unit in the game? Possibly. We'll find out. But as strong as Grave is, and Grave is very, very strong, gets knocked out on her first appearance here with a late release. And Naga takes the W. Okay, we got some members only posts there. My Macchiato was released. I finally pulled Macchiato, by the way. I know I said I wasn't going to for my Girls Frontline 2 players, but I did random pulls for her here and there and ended up getting her. So I'm kind of happy about that. Okay, so now, community vote, second bracket, Burst 1 support winners. So these are all of the winners of that second bracket, because there were multiple groups of 4 of them. It has now come down to Leader and Double D. Very worthy choices here. Leader gets the win, though. Double D, extremely good, but Leader, I think, just still gets the win here. Now, where Double D is best, I should say, she will be better. But she is supporting very specific teams, whereas Leader will almost always be the best Burst 1. Keep in mind, this is everything up to the end of 2024. So Rappy is not relevant, okay? So Rappy is the only one that's not going to be in any of these votes here, okay? This was up to the end of the year. Anyway, so I think Leader is just too dominant. With her cover recovery, her attack boost, her cooldown reduction, her universal application for literally every team. Again, strong argument for best unit in the game, currently, of all time, whatever. So I think this makes sense. Okay. Burst 3 defenders. So these are our winners, or winner. The only one that we had from the second round, the one that won, was 2B. But then we got 2 new Burst 3 defenders that were not released yet, with Ice Rose Maiden and Cinderella. Well, shocking here, Cinderella takes the win by a landslide with 85% of the vote. Possibly the best DPS, possibly the best unit. We'll find out. Easily the best Burst 3 defender. No one else is even close here. We got some major copium going on here from 2B fans saying that she's better than Ice Rose Maiden. Ice Rose Maiden is very relevant. She's an extremely good electric buffer, goes well with Cinderella, and is much more powerful and useful than 2B is. So that's a lot of copium right there. But yeah, Cinderella, she gets the win. If Cinderella didn't win, that would be insane. Okay, best Burst 3 attackers. Okay, so we have winners from all our other groups of Burst 3 attackers here, which ultimately ended up being Black Shadow Scarlet, Snow White, Guillotine Winter Slayer, because she was not released yet, so coming in here with the big girls, and Red Hood. Winter Slayer honorably ties Snow White at 3%. I mean, she is a pretty good water buffer, and Snow White isn't that relevant anymore, but I have to say, I feel like Snow White deserves to have more votes than Guillotine here. You kind of did my girl Snow White dirty here. But ultimately, neither one of them is really relevant. Black Shadow Scarlet and Red Hood are the big dogs. And Black Shadow Scarlet, 24%, and Red Hood at 71%. This is controversial. I think there are a lot of competitive players that would say Black Shadow Scarlet deserved to take this win, and she didn't. Because Black Shadow Scarlet's DPS is just consistently insane. A lot of times it will be higher than Red Hood. I think what we're seeing here is just that Red Hood is so much easier to use. Like, Black Shadow Scarlet without Alice doesn't perform nearly as well. Whereas Red Hood doesn't really need any help. I mean, she can definitely benefit from supporters, be it from Double D or Grave or Crown, like any other unit or whatever. But, she just basically works on her own, no matter what. She's still going to have extremely high DPS. Also, her ability to be the other burst in specific situations is relevant. Getting to burst at least once with her and get that massive attack boost from her burst 1 and then burst 3 for at least once in the battle is relevant. And when you can pierce, again, sometimes enemies just have those hidden cores or things where you can get the multi-hits on, and Red Hood just shreds that stuff. Black Shadow Scarlet, universally puts out pretty nuts damage, but I think Red Hood is just, like I said, easier to use, and I I think if you put them both in their best case scenario, I think Red Hood is probably better. I don't know if this is what you guys were thinking. I think Black Shadow Scarlet, majority of the time, would actually be the victor here. If you put them in a bunch of different situations. Either way, it wasn't up to me. This was all up to you guys, and Red Hood takes the win here. I think, a lot of people view Red Hood as just like the best unit in the game, and she's a very unique unit, so I understand why that happened. Okay, we are on to our community vote bracket 3, best burst 1 overall. Okay, so this is now, no matter what type of unit, these are the best burst 1 units. So our best burst 1 defender was Tia. Our best burst 1 attacker was Volume, and our best burst 1 support was Leader. This definitely makes a lot of sense. Volume had 0 competition there. Tia honestly didn't have a whole lot of competition, and then Leader had a lot of strong competition, but still came out the victor here. And now between the different types, the burst 1 support of Leader is way better. Her cooldown reduction compared to Volume is better. Her attack buff, everything about her is just better than Volume. And Tia is, there. So yeah, Leader is our best burst 1 unit. Makes sense. Okay. Best burst 2 overall. Okay, so our best burst 2 support was Naga. Best burst 2 defender was Crown, and best burst 2 attacker was Summer Helm. This makes sense. Summer Helm is not that relevant because burst 2 attackers aren't that relevant, but I think she deserves to be the best burst 2 attacker. Naga also definitely deserves to be the best burst 2 support. Again, I think one of the best units in the game. But ultimately, we're talking about best burst 2 overall now, and Crown is by far the best burst 2 defender and also by far the best burst 2 overall and takes the W. And the gulf between her and Naga, who is an excellent top tier unit, is kind of crazy. Just shows how amazing Crown is. We'll see. Crown might end up taking the best unit overall award. We'll see. But before we find that out, we have our best burst 3 overall. So best burst 3 defender, Cinderella. No one else was even relevant. Cinderella was going to win that category no matter what. Best burst 3 support, Summer Niece. Again, there wasn't really any competition. It was her and Query. So Summer Niece wins that easily. And then best burst 3 attacker was Red Hood. We discussed this already. It might be a little controversial, but I think Red Hood is an extremely good unit. And ultimately, whether she's better than Black Shadow or not, I think Red Hood is a worthy person to be in this bracket. Red Hood takes this by a fairly close margin. So she got 58% of the vote, Cinderella at 34%, and Summer Niece at a pretty distant 8% there. This kind of all makes sense. I have to say, people are really simping for Red Hood. I'm somewhat surprised that Cinderella didn't get this. Cinderella, I think, is capable of the highest damage in the game. Now, again, it's situational. What are you fighting? What is your squad? But Cinderella's stupid busted. She was literally glitched. She's actually broken. That's not even in literal sense of the word. She is the definition of where that term came from. And I don't know. This is tough. But Red Hood took the victory. I just think that Cinderella is way too nuts. I think I might have given this to Cinderella here, to be honest. But again, Red Hood, extremely powerful. Also, you can't deny that Red Hood has so much flexibility and is extremely capable. These are all extremely good units. These are all going to make top tier teams, although Summer Niece is getting a little less relevant. So, okay, moving on. Now we have the best. Whoa, what happened? The best unit overall. So our best burst 1 was voted to be leader. Best burst 1 in the game, makes sense. Best burst 2 in the game is Crown. Again, makes sense. Best burst 3 is Red Hood. Okay, leader deserves to be here. Crown deserves to be here. Red Hood, I think, is the one that is a little more controversial, but she won the vote. This is where I think I have to disagree with you guys. I think I have to strongly disagree with you guys, okay? Best unit in the game, okay? Red Hood takes the victory at 62% of the vote, and Crown in second at 25% and leader at 13%. Leader, I think, is insane. Again, universally support, and she definitely deserves to be here. I think finally got beaten by Rappy, although Rappy was not a factor in here. But even considering Rappy, leader is still, better than like almost every other unit in the game here. The thing here, though, I think Crown is better than leader because Crown is even more universally good and is just clearly the best burst 2 no matter what. Like I said, she just trivializes boss mechanics and gives the most insane buffs. There's almost no team where Crown is not going to be the best burst 2 no matter what composition you're doing. Red Hood beating Crown, I think, is just wrong. Don't get me wrong. I feel like this video is turning into me like hating on Red Hood, which is not at all what I mean. Red Hood is extremely good. I also love her character. She's in like my top 10 favorite Nikkes, and she is extremely powerful. She's pretty busted. It's just, when we're talking about the best units in the game, I think there are a few that are better than her, and Crown is one of them. And I personally would say the best unit in the game is Crown. Possibly with the exception of Red Hood Rappy now, but I think Crown is actually better than her too. Crown is just too good. She's kind of nuts. But community voted Red Hood as the best unit in the game here. I think these are all three very worthy contenders for the conversation. But yeah, you guys voted Red Hood as best, Crown as number 2, leader as number 3. Well, thanks for watching, guys. This was a really long one, but this was really fun. Again, this was 5 months in the making, looking at all of the units from launch to the end of 2024, and this was votes of thousands of people through the community on what the best units were. So thank you so much for participating. Hopefully you guys found it interesting. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Were there any of these rounds or votes that really you strongly disagreed with? Let me know. Also, quick reminder, I am still doing the giveaway. I will announce the winners at the end or later this week. You have the chance to win Nikke stickers, Modernia clear file, and a Summer Rosanna keychain. So link to the description on the video for the community vote on there. But if you guys want a chance to get these, I'm doing a giveaway. Make sure you go follow the rules in that video. Go check it out. Again, link to that video in the description below. So more community stuff there. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about these votes. And I will see you guys on stream and in the next video.